Welcome to the podcast series, Small Business Survival Conversations. Through our weekly conversations, we hope to provide you with strategies and insights, knowledge and expertise to enlighten you as you work to build and grow your business.
Welcome to our Thursday Real Talk, part of our Small Business Survival Conversation podcast, where we cut through the fluff and talk about what it really takes to build, grow, and survive as a small business owner. Today, I'm excited to sit down with someone who has poured a lot of time, wisdom, and energy into supporting small businesses, Ron Franklin. Ron's background includes years of executive leadership and strategic advising, but what I appreciate the most is how he shows up for small business owners as a mentor, as a guide, and as a champion. We're going to talk about what he's learned from mentoring entrepreneurs, what challenges he sees most often, and how to think long-term, even when you are putting out daily fires. So welcome, Ron, to our show.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here, and it's great to be able to have a conversation with you.
Do you want to add something to my introducing you?
No, hopefully I can live up to the hype that you just gave me. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I just have to say one thing, though. You're originally from Australia for our Australian listeners.
Yes, I am. I moved over here about 20 odd years ago, or as I like to say, 20 long winters ago.
Well, yes. The winters in Wisconsin are crazy. But let's start with our first question. You've mentored a lot of small business owners. What inspired you to get involved in that kind of work?
Well, I fell into it, so to speak. In my last role at the Greater Green Bay Chamber with the Startup Hub, I had some of the businesses in there just start asking me questions, and I started talking and giving them some advice. And then I met some other people who just asked and said, "Hey, can you give me some advice on this?" Or we're referred other people to start having conversations with. And a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, suggested that I start doing consulting on the side. So I started doing that outside of the region. And as I did that, it continued to grow locally to the point where I was meeting approximately 400 businesses per year and consulting with them. And I really enjoyed that aspect of what I was doing and being able to help them every day and utilize the experience that I had to be able to help guide their business. It was a pretty cool experience. And if I can help them have one less hiccup along their journey, if they can learn something from me and one of my failures along the way to help them better themselves or better their organization, that's the end goal.
Wow, that's impressive. So I have to ask you, knowing now your background, what is the common mindset traps, I should say, for small business owners they fall into?
Probably the biggest one I see is that as a small business owner or as an entrepreneur, you feel like you're expected to know everything and do everything for your organization. So a lot of entrepreneurs will get the mindset that because I started my own business, I was an accountant for 30 years, I started my own business, I know everything there is to know about X, Y, Z. I can do this. You might be really great at what you do, but that doesn't mean you're great in every aspect of what you do. It doesn't make you, maybe you're a fantastic accountant, but maybe you're not that great at management, or maybe you're not that good at marketing. You need to understand where your shortfalls are. And when you ask for advice, which you should do often, when you ask for that advice, you should take that advice. I have met so many entrepreneurs that come to me for advice. I'll give them some advice, and maybe it's not the right thing for them, but I'll connect it with other people who can give them the advice, and then they'll do the exact opposite of what we said. Or I've had people tell me, well, that's not what I think I should do. That's really the wrong mindset to go into it with, because if you go into it with that mindset, you're never going to be able to accept the help that people are willing to offer you.
Absolutely, because small business owners, usually they wear all different hats.
Yes.
And especially going into the business world, you are unprepared to wearing all different hats, like exactly what you're describing. And when you give advice, and from your perspective, you're professional giving advice. You're professional mentor, business mentor, I should say, for some of our listeners who don't know your background. I mean, they just heard it, but you work, like you mentioned, with 400 businesses at least
per year.
per year. Exactly. So that's impressive. And what you're describing, it's very common for small business owners not to take the advice they're given from an expert.
Yes, it's the biggest trap that I see most people fall into.
Yeah, and I think that what separates successful business owners versus the ones who don't survive. And that's what this show is all about. So, well, as you hear, Ron wants you to reach out to mentors, reach out to advisors, but make sure that you stay open
Correct.
and you take the advice. Because he mentioned, I mean, maybe the advice doesn't work, but you have to at least try it.
And you have to, the mentor that you reach out to, make sure it's someone that you can connect with. For example, the Packers Mentor Protege program in Green Bay is a fantastic program that connects people with people they connect with. It's not just any mentor matching up with any protege. It's someone who they connect based on a variety of different things. It's not just, I want to work with that person, so that's who I get. It's, are they a right fit for them personality-wise? Do they have the right experience? Does that mentor fit the areas that business needs to grow in? It's not just, let's pair them up and make it work.
The other trap I notice sometimes small business owners have or fall, I should say, is when they have all these hats we've talked about. They're janitorial, bookkeeper, marketer, HR. But now, can you help us how they should still think as a CEO of the company, how they should just push themselves being strategically?
So most people fall into it. Most people, as entrepreneurs, usually they start one or two people for the organization, so they have to do everything. But as you continue to scale and continue to grow your business, you've got to start thinking as a CEO. So you need to start prioritizing strategy over tasks. And what I mean by that is, do you prioritize doing a mundane task, or do you prioritize how to become a larger company? You need to make sure you prioritize your things. Working on creating systems is going to be a huge thing. If you can create systems, it allows you to grow and the business isn't dependent on you. I would make sure that you delegate as much as you possibly can. If you have employees, fantastic. Delegate things off that you don't need to be worrying about. You don't need to be worrying about the small things. And you can, on a small organization, you can assign tasks to a larger group of people that you wouldn't typically assign to in a larger organization. For example, cleaning the lunchroom. If you happen to have a lunchroom, if you've got 5 or 6 people, everyone in the office can take turns in cleaning that, or getting the mail, taking the mail out. The small tasks that do take time and add up and eat away your day, you can do that. Make sure to think in roles, not just in tasks. Because if you're thinking in people's roles and making sure that people are able to fully enhance their role, you're able to delegate things to them. Another big thing that a lot of entrepreneurs don't do is metrics. People don't measure what matters. So making sure you're measuring the items that are important and forgetting about the little things that aren't. If you get caught in the numbers, in the weeds, and go down into the things that don't really matter, you completely miss the high level things that you need to be focused on. Saying no more often. That's another huge thing.
Yeah, that's
Every
huge.
entrepreneur wants to say yes all the flipping time.
Yes.
You don't need to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Invest in your growth. Focusing on yourself, focusing on your knowledge, increasing your knowledge base will help you to be a better leader, to be able to take your organization to the next level, to be able to grow and expand so that you can turn from a small business or an entrepreneur into maybe an organization that gets acquired later down the path for several billions of dollars and you go retire on a beach.
Well, I have to push back right now. You talked about staffing, you've talked about systems. Okay, for some small business owners, maybe we don't have the budget So how do you get out of this circle of
No money.
no money? Exactly, yes. Because, yeah, you're absolutely correct. I mean, systems and delegating is extremely important. But some solopreneurs, people who are one-man show, what advice can you give for them when the budgets do not stretch?
So the biggest thing for entrepreneurs and the biggest thing about entrepreneurs, the number one feature of them, they're scrappy. They will, if you give them $100, they'll make it seem like they've got $10,000 because that's what entrepreneurs do. They find a way to stretch every last dime and dollar as much as they possibly can. So that's what you need to do. Think about ways you can maximize your revenue or maximize the dollars that you do have to get the most out of it. Do you need to go and hire a full-time staff? Not necessarily. Have you thought about a virtual assistant, which you can get for $3 to $5 an hour? Have you heard about micro hires or thought about micro hires? Hires that you don't need to bring on full time, that you can bring on for 5 or 10 hours a week to do certain tasks. So that's a major aspect that a lot of people don't do. Another thing, in today's world where technology is evolving so rapidly, there are smart tools for everything. You can automate so many tasks using free or cheap tools that a free tool could be perfectly adequate for what you need, or maybe you got to pay $2 or $3 per month for that tool. But if you're paying, even if it's $15 a month, that's what, 1 hour's of time frame of a part-time employee that you're going to bring on, and you've automated that. That's for an entire month. That one task, that's huge. If you can get a virtual assistant to be able to help you out that you're paying $5 to $8 an hour that is doing some of the mundane tasks or tasks that take up time that allows you to add value back to your business. That's all about what it comes down to is if you're going to spend money on a virtual assistant, on these automated systems and solutions, you need to be able to recoup that money that you're spending, right? That's typical business.
Yes, yes.
So if you're able to do that by reinvesting your time, but you've got to look at it as like a 2, 3, 4-fold process. Meaning, if you're going to spend $100 a week on a virtual assistant, you need to be making $400 up to pay for that because your time is worth that.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't just spend money for the sake of a virtual assistant because, oh, I'm too busy to answer emails. That's not the point. They need to be adding value to you. You need to be adding value to your company. Another way you can do it, barter for service. Maybe you're a great accountant and maybe your friend down the street, they're a fantastic marketer. How about they do your marketing, you do their accounting? It's not costing you anything. It's not costing them anything, but you're able to leverage that of a fully experienced marketing firm. You could easily you've got friends and family. Ask them to help you out in a pinch. Maybe you need someone to answer the phones on weekends or on nights or on school holidays. How about you have a college student come in and do that for you? An intern. You can bring unpaid interns in that as long as they're willing to for the experience. Key fact with interns, make sure that you are adding value to them. There is no point in bringing an intern in and treating them like a slave because that's not good for your business in the long run in terms of reputation, but that's also not good as a person. You want to be able to bring someone in that you can teach and that they can get value from being with you and around you. If they've got value being with you, they're going to stay a lot longer and they're going to be invested in your business as well. Wow. The last thing is freelancers and contractors. You don't need to be hiring full-time people to be working for or to be bringing on freelance contractor people to do those jobs. Upwork has recently had a really strong advertising campaign on TV about expand your team, hire freelancers. And they've got ads where they've got full teams built out, marketing, advertising, PR, sales, all built out online, and they're all freelancers. And you can pay a fraction of the cost to do so.
Absolutely. Wow. That's a lot of invaluable advice, Ron. I think some people probably will be listening to this podcast episode. That's fantastic. But let me go back and let me ask you a question. What's one tough truth you wish more entrepreneurs would accept earlier in their journey?
I hinted on it before. Accept help. Yes. Asking for help is not failure. it's human nature. They don't want to ask for help, especially us guys. We can do everything, right? We're brave, strong. We don't even need a map to get anywhere. We've got this.
Yes.
But you need help. If you get lost along the way, what do? You stop and ask for help. You stop and ask for directions. That's all you're doing. It is okay as a small business to ask for help and accept that help. You don't have to go it alone. You don't have to be working 20 hours a day. You don't have to sacrifice your marriage for this. You got into owning your own business for a specific reason. Maybe that's a work-life balance. Maybe that's because you really enjoyed what you did. Maybe it's because you worked for large organizations and you saw a lot of the failures along the way. Either way, you probably weren't just, hey, I'm a fantastic entrepreneur. I'm going to do this and I can do this. Yes, you can do it, but it's okay to know what your limits are. Ask for help, accept that help, and embrace it when it comes.
Where do you suggest small business owners look for help, Ron?
Whenever there's a time or a task that they can't do. So if instead of struggling through something, if you're not good at accounting, don't do accounting. Was a saying I was always taught in Fortune 500 companies and Fortune 100 companies that I worked for that said that you should never be the best at what you do for that organization. You should always hire someone better than you in those positions. I don't want to hire an accountant that works for me that knows accounting like I do. My business will fail, 100%.
Wow.
I know numbers, I know budgets, I'm pretty good at that sort of stuff, but I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant. I will hire someone who is a CPA genius. I will hire someone who can find in the little details things that I miss. Because again, I'm not an accountant. I'm also not a marketing genius. I know enough to get by, just like every other entrepreneur. I can figure things out, but I'm going to hire someone who is a fantastic marketer. I'm going to hire someone who comes to me with out-of-the-box thinking marketing ideas because of their experience and their history. If you hire someone with your experience or less, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Well, that's, yeah, very, very true. I love that. I love all the advice we're getting today. And our last question, what does small business resilience look like to you in 2025? As you see right now, the world around us has changed. After COVID, everything went upside down, I should say, for a lot of small business owners. They pivot, they change. But what do you think right now is
probably being willing to adapt? Obviously, in the US, everyone's familiar with the tariff world that's going on right now. It's across the US, across the world. It's not just US focused. The costs in Australia are significantly higher to produce products than they are in India or in China or in the US. Making sure that you are constantly looking at your numbers, constantly reviewing the details of your business. You've got to make sure that you know the numbers of your organization. It's the number one area that will kill you. It's the number one area that will stop you from hiring that employee. If your costs are rising too high and you're not monitoring those costs, that will eat up your profit. That'll eat up your business. And before you know it, you're out of business and you got $100,000 in debt from the startup costs of that. So making sure you're willing to adapt and change with every situation. Don't just look at a situation that came up and said, that's too hard, I can't do that. I give the example of the tariffs going on in the US. All of the automakers knew this was coming for quite a long time. So they started proactively researching and changing with suppliers, resupplying themselves for internal US companies so that they're not getting those pass along 100 and 200% tariffs added onto it. They're investing in their organizations locally to be able to do that. Again, that's at a greater scale, but maybe you can find a supplier locally if you see these costs coming and you can maybe do a supplier renegotiation. Maybe you can look for a different supplier that has the same or better quality. Just because the supplier you've been with for the past 5 to 8 years is a fantastic supplier, maybe he's your best friend, maybe it's not the best price. He may not have the best price out there. You have to make those tough decisions. Business is business and personal is personal. Make that decision. I think making sure you're willing to be adaptable and going through the change, that's where we're at.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Ron, for joining us and bringing your honest experience and passion for helping small business succeed. Your advice today is the kind of guidance that can shift the path for someone listening. And I know our audience is walking away with real gems. For those of you tuning in, I want you to take one thing you heard today and act on it. And don't forget, every Thursday, we're bringing you real stories, real strategies, and real support. This is Thursday Real Talk, because small business survival isn't easy and you are not alone.
You've been listening to the Small Business Survival Conversation podcast. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode. In the meantime, hook up with us on our Facebook group at Small Business Survival Tools and Tips. Till next time, thank you for listening.